right and I do it again.
What's up, Reign of Terror? This is the first video of 2017. I'd like to welcome you guys all back. Everyone was in the league last year. And please welcome our newest member, Bill. Bill, welcome to the Reign of Terror. Hope you had a good draft. We'll be going through that, recapping what everybody drafted. I think for the most part, everyone had a really good draft. You guys did your homework. If you didn't do your homework, well, it looked like you did your homework because this league is one hell of a competitive league, and I think you all took this pretty seriously, and we're going to have a pretty goddamn good year. What I did was I took the draft rankings that Yahoo provided, Fantasy Pros, and my own secret sauce kind of value pick rankings, and I averaged them out to determine which teams were the best and which teams were the worst, and then we can speculate wildly before the season starts. Sound good? Here we go. So here are our preseason rankings. You can see that it's based on the average of the three here. Fantasy Pros does it based on giving the top team a 100. I did the same thing. And then Yahoo gave them a letter grade, which I translated into a numerical score based on how it ranked the people within each grade. So they're pretty close together. So Dingleberries, he had the first pick, and there's a lot of value 1, 2, 3 in this draft. Obviously you got Johnson, and then he went Hopkins, Kelsey, which is I don't think you can do much better than that. That was just beautiful. And then he got Allen Robinson really late, and then Abdullah at the end of the round 6. I think he definitely had the best draft out of everybody. I had the 5th pick with Beckham hurt. I made my decision to pick McCoy a lot easier. And then I did something that anyone who's been playing in the league with me knows I never do, and I took a quarterback. I took Aaron Rodgers in the 2nd round, but all the other guys I wanted, Hilton, Gurley, and Cooper, went 1, 2, 3 right before him. So, sometimes you just got to call an audible during the middle of the draft. My team's well-rounded. I think the only position where I'm really weak at is I could use a better running back too. Participation award, he picked 2nd. And Bell gives him a ton of value. And then he went Fournette, who I'm not too high on this year, but he could be good like Elliott was last year. And then Pryor in the 3rd. I think his team's well-rounded, but I think like Yahoo overvalued a lot of his players, and that's why he has a pretty good ranking. But pretty good team overall, especially with Le'Veon Bell. Rage and Ray, he picked 3rd. You seeing a trend here with these early picks getting these high rankings? Yep, he took Antonio Brown, obviously, and then he went Miller, and then Olsen, and then unfortunately he drafted Edelman in the 4th, which is just tragic. This is why I do not like drafting this early, and I feel bad for Brian's team because that really sucks. Next ranking, where's the beef? Brady, he picked 8th. It was actually Jess, his fiance, picking, and she did a good job. She went to classic wide receiver, running back, quarterback, tight end. Took A.J. Green first, and then T.Y. Hilton into Hyde and C.J. Anderson. So solid, well-rounded team there, and that's pretty good for picking 8th. Next was Greg, the G-Men. He took Julio, no-brainer. I was hoping maybe he'd take Beckham first, and then I could have Julio, because he picked 4th right before me. And then he surprised me by picking Brady in the 2nd right after I snagged Rodgers. So we were stealing each other's picks all day, I think. And then he went running back, beast mode, and Mixon, the rookie. Two Live Jew, he went first. He went the classic running back approach and went Ajayi and Howard. And then he took Alshon Jeffrey, and then he took
Crabtree, don't you open your mouth about the best.
And followed up by AP and Brandon Marshall, which looks like some kind of Brian picks. But overall, I think Two Live Jew's got a pretty solid team. We had Peekaboo Crew coming up. He took Devontae first. He picked 7th. Then Gurley, which gave him probably the best combination of running backs in the league. And then he reached for Devontae Adams in the 3rd, followed by Larry Fitz and Clam Crowder, filling out his wide receiver roster. And I think the biggest question is Andrew Luck going to be his quarterback? Because I don't know if he's even going to play this year. His dad, the Top Gun Ballers, picked 11th. Took his boy Mike Evans, followed by Patriot Cooks, and perennial top 5 quarterback Drew Brees, followed by another Patriot in Gilly. I'm going to call him Gilly. And then Rudolph, who I think is going to have a good year. I think the Ballers drafted a pretty good team. Then, the newly named Tom Brady duck handler. He drafted very last and took Michael Thomas and then right for DeMarco Murray after that. He then made 2 reaches for Bryant and Keenan Allen. Now this obviously made him lower in the Yahoo and value rankings and everything like that, but these are 2 guys that are high risk, high reward if one of them doesn't get suspended and the other one doesn't get hurt. And that's kind of how Mark plays it. I like his style. The Rampagers, my dad picked 9th, took Jordy Nelson, and I was wondering who was going to take Ezekiel Elliott and what round he would go. He grabbed him then. He also grabbed McFadden later on, so he had the handcuff for that. And then he got Ty Montgomery, Tyreek Hill, and then his quarterback, Jameis Winston. Then, alt-right Tom Brady, Yackle. As TK would say, all-right Tom Brady. No, it's alt-right Tom Brady. Yahoo gave him the best grade. He took his boy Dez, followed by Baldwin, 2 solid wide receivers, and then McAfee, Graham, and Perkins. I think he has the best. He's got Diggs too. He's got the best wide receiver set in the league. Maybe a little bit weak at running back. We'll see how McCaffrey does this year. Will Forks Chode picked 10th, took Melvin Gordon, and then of course Gronk. No surprise there. Took Crowell and Watkins. But this puts him pretty weak at wide receiver. I think he has the weakest wide receiver set in the league. And then our new guy, last but not least, the Fried Chicken Heads, picked 6th. Took Beckham, followed by Cooper. And then Cook, the rookie for Minnesota. 1, 2, 3. And then he really went for what guys he wanted to have. He went for Bennett next, who I think is being undervalued. And he really wanted Blunt. I think he could have waited on that pick, probably drafted someone else, because I don't think anyone's going to take Blunt that early. But, you know, I like his style. He knew which guys he wanted, and he went after them. And, you know, when you look at something like this, you can say, fuck the Yahoo rankings, fuck the Fantasy Pros ranking, because, you know, they can only predict so well on who's going to break out this year and who's not. So, obviously, take all these rankings with a grain of salt. Injuries happen and breakout players happen. It's going to be interesting. But you know what? It looks like everyone's really close. You might be wondering, you know, why is the Yahoo one not on a scale of 100? That's just how they did things, and I could have rounded it up to 100, but I really don't put a lot of stock into Yahoo rankings. The Fantasy Pros also is a conglomerate, and they take the Yahoo rankings into account for their score a little bit as well. So, you know, I don't know. I never like the Yahoo rankings, because if you auto-pick the highest ranked guy in their rankings every year, you'd probably have the best grade. We had our first trade this year. It was actually between me and Ryan, which is surprising because I don't think I've ever actually had a successful trade with him. You know, I'm big on Macklin this year. He knew it. I drafted Garcon. He wanted the handcuff for Freeman and Coleman, and I kind of wanted McCoy's handcuff, Jonathan Williams, and then he threw in Rawls to sweeten the pot a little bit. You know, if Rawls can stay healthy, I think he could end up being the starting running back for Seattle, and I could definitely use a decent starting running back. So I think it's a fair trade on both sides. You know, not huge names here. He's mainly the benched players, but always good to have a handcuff for your running back because you never know what can happen to those guys. So good trade, Ryan. So those are the pre-season rankings. Guys, try and get me those bold predictions in. I want to see what we have. I want to get more than we did last year. You know, top 10 players that you think, what teams you think are going to make the playoffs, whether it's a Reign of Terror team or an actual NFL team, what players you think are going to trade the most, who's going to have trouble with the new waiver wire rule, you know, anything. Get creative on me. As for videos, I'm not going to be doing like a game-by-game recap, except for maybe the playoffs, but I will be doing the interviews again, so if I didn't interview you, we can do one if you want. And I'll probably also still do the power rankings. Probably every 2 weeks I'll put those out because I think that's a lot of fun. I have fun doing those. All right, guys, gotta go. Hopefully I'll see some of you guys at Beachland or Corner Pub, and have a good season.